Hi everyone, I'm Allie with the Potomac Bead Company, and I'm going to show you today how to do this nice Regal Pearl Bracelet. And what we're going to be using is just some simple materials. You can use multiple materials and change it up, or you can just use the simple ones like we're using today. Today we're going to be using some glass pearls in the gold color. They're 3mm. I'm also accompanying them with 3mm check glass in the rose AB. And then we're going to use some 11O seed beads, and I have silver lined light topaz seed beads. I've finished it all off then with a cup button, which is our check buttons that we've been getting manufactured and produced for us. And it's just a really nice, simple, really elegant, like I said, Regal Pearl Bracelet. And for it, thread-wise, other than your 3mm seed beads or your 3mm check glass, your 3mm pearls, and then your 11O seed beads. In addition to that, you're going to need some wildfire beading thread. I'm using 0.006 wildfire, and you're also going to need 2 needles. To cut your thread or to burn it off, you're either going to use a thread burner or some scissors. And then for the ends, we are going to use a little dab of glue when we're working on this fun Regal look to this pearl bracelet. So I have my materials laid out here, and what I've done is I've taken my thread, and we're using about 4 feet of thread here, and I've attached 2 needles. Again, we needed 2 needles for this, so I've attached 1 needle to one side of my thread and 1 needle to the other side. Whenever we start out with 2 needles, it's a great idea to add our clasp first. It makes it a nice, easy addition to add the clasp first. Also, this bracelet is a one-direction bracelet. We're going one way, and we're not going to have to come back at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my cup button. To start with the cup button, I'm going to decorate the sides a little bit by using one of my check glass beads as well as a seed bead on either side. So I'm going to put an 11O and then my check glass and an 11O bead on one of my needles and drop it down to the middle bottom of my thread. Next goes on a cup button, and I'm going through the top or the front of the cup button towards the back. And what this is going to do then is have those beads sit right there in the center just to decorate it a little bit. When I'm coming out of my cup button, what I'm going to do is take my needle that's on the right and add 2 seed beads, and I'm going to add 2 to my needle that's on the left and let them drop down next to my cup button. After that, it's your choice whether or not you want to use a pearl or one of your check glass beads. I'm going to use one of my check glass beads, and I'm going to put 1 bead through both needles. Putting them through both needles then, I'm going to pull the needles out. Again, trying to make sure that your thread stays even. And I'm going to have that end there. So that's going to be how I attach my button clasp right there at the end. And I'm going to get ready now to go into my bracelet. So my bracelet is really going to be working with right needle, left needle, and then both combined. To work with my right needle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my crystal color here, and I'm going to add a crystal on each side of my needle. I'm going to let that drop down to the last crystal that I just put on. After the crystal here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up 1 11O seed bead on my right needle, 1 on my left, and then I'm going to pick up another crystal bead, and I'm going to crisscross through it. So I'm picking it up with my right, and the needle's going through the right towards the left, and the needle that's on the left is going to go from the left towards the right. I'm going to pull that down. You're going to see it's going to create a little bit of a triangle effect. And I'm going to keep my needles separate. A seed bead goes on each needle, and a crystal goes on each needle, followed by a seed bead on each needle as well. and let those drop down next to my project. What that's going to do is create a little bit of an X factor there that I have 4 of my crystal beads on. And now I'm going to separate my strands a little bit. So I'm going to tuck my left strand in and just tuck my needle into my bead mat. And I'm going to be working now primarily with my right needle. If you've never done right angle weave, this is actually a right angle weave stitch, but it's basically a loop. So I'm going to put on 4 of my pearls onto my needle. And the glass pearls, these 3mm glass pearls, they are coated. So sometimes you have to go in from one side, or if it doesn't like you can kind of poke your needle in the other side. So I have my 4 beads on, and I'm going to let those drop right down next to my seed bead. I'm going to take my needle just like I would in a right angle stitch. I'm going to go through the first one of my pearls with my needle going away from my project. That's going to be circling my thread. And that's going to create a little diamond effect with my pearls. And they just sit right on there. On the other side here, to get ready to start over, I'm going to add a seed bead and a glass bead and a seed bead. And that gets done my right side. I'm going to do the same thing on the left side. I already have my seed bead and my glass beads on. And then I'm going to pick up my 4 pearls, put those on my needle. 2, 3, and 4. Again, just like I did on the other side, we're going to circle through that first bead, needle going in the same direction as it was, and give a nice tight pull, and make sure that little diamond effect is right down next to the last bead. Again, on goes an 11-0, a check glass bead, and an 11-0 bead. And I drop those down. At this point now, I get to bring them together, and how I'm going to bring them together and then get this as my repetitive set over and over is I'm going to crisscross through 1 bead. So I'm crisscrossing through, needle going from right to left, needle going from left to right. I'm going to give that a nice little pull, and there's going to be my little opening. If you don't want this to be as large, you can delete basically the beads right here on the side. That's up to you if you want to keep it further in. You can also come back down and kind of attach to it, but it gives a nice open and fun effect. And we're just going to continue on then with that same pattern. What I will do to show you closer and further away is we'll do every other. So on this side now, what I'm going to do is a seed bead, and then my group of 4. So you're always putting on 4 pearls. Like I said, sometimes the pearls are tricky because they don't want to go on the needle. Most things it's easier for you to pick up just with the needle, but this one sometimes it's easier to put on. So if I want that diamond to be a little bit closer, what I'm going to do is delete those check glass beads. You can do either version or every other like I'm going to be doing. We're going back through the first bead in a circular motion, giving a nice tight pull. And there is another one of my little diamonds right in there. I'm going to do the same thing on this other side now. I'm going to put on a seed bead, and we're going to put on 4 of our beads. 4 of the glass pearls go on, just like we did on the right. And then I'm going to go back through the first one in a circular motion, bringing my needle up towards the top. And that's going to pull and create that little pearl loop in there. Then what we're going to do on the other side, seed bead goes on each needle, one on the right, one on the left. And then we're going to crisscross through one of our check glass beads. And pull nice and tightly. See, and that's going to get that a little bit closer. I'm going to go back to the bigger one and go bigger, smaller, to get a little bit of a different look in it. And when you go bigger, all you're doing basically is adding a seed bead and a crystal before you do your 4 beads. We're going to do our 4 beads going on. And then we'll go back to our other pattern. So no matter which pattern you're doing, or if you're doing a combination like me, you're always putting on those 4 pearls and then going back through the first one in a circular fashion. Your needle is going the same direction that your thread was going when you put on the first one. And give a nice tight pull, backing it down right to the last bead. Oops. Over on the left now, we're going to do the same thing. Again, seed bead and crystal on first, because this one is going to be my one that's a little bit wider. And then I'm going to put my 4 glass pearls on and circle back through. After I do this one, it's going to be just a repeat of seed beads and crystals. You can really do this bracelet with any materials. You can vary up the sizes a little bit. I just kept the same size here to keep it nice and simple. So on the right goes a seed bead, a crystal, a seed bead. On the left, same thing. And then afterwards, we're going to pick up another crystal and we're going to crisscross through it. So every time I'm crisscrossing through and I'm pulling those, that's when I finish my rotation. And there we go. So there's the big and the small, and I'm going to go back to the small again. So to go back to the small, all I'm doing is a seed bead on, and then you're going to do your rotation of 4, and then a seed bead on. We're going to do the same thing on the right and on the left, just making it a little bit longer. So here I'm showing my progression, and I've progressed a little bit more, and I'm on to my next one that's going to be tight on in. And again, it's just the seed bead, and then 4 of my glass pearls. And everything you do on the right, you do on the left. So it's a nice, simple beginner bracelet. You don't really need to know much about bead weaving at all to be able to do this pearl bracelet. Like I said before, you can use any materials too. So a seed bead goes on, my 4 pearls go on, and back through the first one, doubling it around, pulling nice and tight, and then I'm going to pick up my one on the left and do that on this left hand needle as well. Seed bead on, 4 pearls. Also, if you have 4mm beads, this would work with 4mm ones as well. Going back through that first pearl, pushing it down towards the last bead. And then after I have my 4 pearls on each side, I'll go a seed bead on each side. And then I'm ready to be done this section. And you know you're done when you get ready to crisscross through the check glass. If you do want it to sparkle a little bit more, you could use the Swarovski crystals too. That's up to you. But there's my next rotation. So the next one that I do here on the sides before I add my 4 seed beads, on go a seed bead, check glass, and a seed bead. So on rotation you add the check glass before, and one you don't. And I'm going to continue on then, adding my 4 and giving myself a little bit more length. So I'm done my bracelet now, and I'm getting ready to close it off and to attach my loop that I'm going to put my cup button in at the other end. And all I've done is finished off one of my sections by going through the check glass bead and crisscrossing through there. And then what I'm going to do is repeat the beginning section basically of what I did to add my cup button. So on that, I'm going to add an 11/0 seed bead and a check glass bead on each needle. Then what I'm going to do is take both needles together and go through one of my check glass beads. I'm going to grab a check glass bead and take both needles through it. Going in the same direction, not crisscrossing, just the same direction. That's going to mimic the start. And then I have that little triangle there that mimics the start that I used over here at the start of the cup button. I'm just going to put one of the needles to the side, whichever one, if you have one that has a little bit more thread in, that's the one that we're going to be working with. And what I'm going to do is use a bunch of my 11/0 seed beads to create my loop. So I'm going to attach a bunch of these here onto, again, just one needle for now. And attach a bunch of those seed beads on. And I need it big enough that it'll fit over my button, but not too big that it's going to fall off the side of it. If you want to, you can also do a peyote stitch on this. You could add a little crystal on each, or a little check bead on each side. That's kind of up to you. And once I have my loop made, I'm going to reinforce this loop. To reinforce the loop, I'm going to go back down with the same needle that's in my hand, back down the check glass bead that was at the very end, as well as the one that's second to the end, and through the 11/0 seed bead and out. I'm going to go back through my check glass bead then as well, and circling it around, the one that I crisscrossed through, the very last one. I'm going back up, so basically I'm making a full rotation, going back up to where my beads are coming out. And that was with one needle. Now what I'm going to do is take the other needle and I'm going to reinforce that loop. If you want to, you can also take the other needle and you can do peyote. I'll show you how to do that. You can take the one needle, I've gone through my first of my seed beads. I'm going to add another seed bead, skip a bead, and go through the next one in line. So I'm picking up every other bead. That's going to put a bead there on the side. Again, add a bead, skip the next one, and then go through the second one. Continue to do that the whole way around. If you don't know peyote, we have plenty of other videos too that use peyote. If you do want to get a little bit of a peyote look to your clasp, you can check out one of those videos as well. But all I'm doing then is going around this circle with that peyote stitch. If you don't want to do the peyote stitch, you can just reinforce it by taking your thread and needle back through all the seed beads that were on the first row that you added. And going around the whole thing. Like I said, it just makes it look a little bit more decorated, a little bit more finished. I'm going the whole way around doing that, making sure to give a nice tight pull as you're working on it. If you want to, you actually could have done this with the first thread. If your threads do get thrown off a little bit and one thread is a lot longer than the other, you can do it all with one thread rather than picking up this second thread. That's up to you. But what I'm going to do is finish off with the second thread here, doing the peyote stitch. And then once I'm done with that, I'm going to use it to tie off to the other thread. Get that tail out of the way. Going through this last bead then. Gets kind of tight at the end there. Going through the last bead then, all I'm going to do is give a nice tight pull to get that peyote in line. Take my needles off my project. Tie the two threads together. And then use a dab of glue right where my knot is. Right there. And then I'll cut it off. And then I have my nice pearl bracelet here. Like I said, you can do this with anything. You can go back down the middle if you want to, and you can add beads down the middle. I like the openness look of it. You can also do a necklace in the same variety. The cup buttons are a nice addition either to the necklace or the bracelet. They're really easy to put on and take off as well. And you can do a lot of variety with this, either going back through and attaching something here at the top, or you can attach in the middle, crisscrossing down through the middle and attaching beads in the middle as well. So there's a lot of different varieties of this bracelet that you can do, but it's a fun, easy stitch that doesn't take too long and too much time to make up. If you do need any materials, feel free to go to PotomacBeads.com, check out our locations page, and we'd be happy to help you at any of our Potomac Bead Company locations. We do carry all of these materials at each one. And then also, if you don't get a chance to go into our stores, you live far away, or you're even from overseas, you can visit us at thebeadco.com, and we'd be happy to mail out and ship to you the materials that you do need. If you get a chance, check out our Facebook page, and we regularly update all of our different videos that we're doing and the different shipments that we come in and some of the new stuff as well. So thanks a lot for watching for the pearl bracelet, and enjoy making this fun little quick design that has a really nice regal pearl look.